We love to blame coaches, and we love to blame quarterbacks. Yesterday was lousy GMing by Ryan Pace of the Bears. So since he took the job, here's the 4 quarterbacks he's gone and acquired. Mike Glennon cost him a fortune, traded for him. Mike Glennon traded up to get Mitch Trubisky. Didn't have to, could have still landed him. Nick Foles made him the most expensive backup in the NFL. And then Andy Dalton, nice guy, but this is an easy one. The Bears' offense needs a playmaker. It's why Mitch Trubisky actually won. Marcus Mariota is a better fit than Dalton. Sam Darnold, hard to get perhaps, better fit than Dalton. Deshaun Watson, perfect, probably couldn't afford him. The worst literal fit for this Bears offense, which is an average offensive line, outside of Allen Robinson, very weak skill people. The worst fit is a non-playmaking distributor with a low ceiling. That's Andy Dalton. Marcus Mariota would have worked here. I mean, in order of perfect fit, Deshaun 1, Darnold 2, Mariota 3, Trubisky 4. Remember, Trubisky shouldn't have won games in Chicago. It's the windiest city in America. Northern, cold weather, and they also played road games, like in Green Bay. Not a very strong arm and not a very gifted thrower. And it's windy. He should never have won games. But he actually did. Why? Because he's a good athlete. And he ran around, and despite an average offensive line, and Tyreek Cohen gets hurt, and one decent receiver, Mitch Trubisky has a winning record. His all-time winning percentage is right around Bill Parcells. He actually won games. I think Matt Nagy's a pretty clever coach. But when there are indications in Andy's career, and they're right in a resume, that if you give him a lot of good targets, early Cincinnati and Dallas last year, you can win games with Andy Dalton. I mean, Dallas, if you count the game he came back against the Giants, he was 5-5. But you can't ask Andy to make plays with average wide receivers and an average O-line. And not only is Ryan Pace, the GM, bad at the quarterback thing, he's not good at the public perception thing, and that matters in a city like Chicago. It's the 3rd biggest city in America, highly educated. This is a city of smart sports fans. They know what they're doing. The smartest people in the Midwest gravitate to Chicago. And you got smart, a lot of college degrees. They know their sports. There's a lot of history. You can't fool Chicago sports fans. They're a little bit like Boston fans, but nicer. And Ryan Pace butchers the public perception thing. Remember years ago, he went and he signed Mike Glennon to a huge contract. They had a draft party, and he drafts Mitch Trubisky with Mike Glennon at the draft party. Not good. Then he gets involved in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes. Those go public. There's multiple stories out today on those. And he settles for Andy Dalton. So listen, you can make a lot of mistakes as a GM, but when you get in a Boston or a New York or a Philly or a Chicago, you get into these die-hard northern sports towns, you got to get the quarterback right, and you got to get the public perception stuff right. Chicago's got teeth as a sports town. And, right, that was lousy GMing. This is the worst literal fit. And Matt Nagy's going to lose his job over this. And he can coach. Drew Rosenhaus, NFL super agent, now joining us live.
I'm here, Colin.
Boom. There you go. Look at that. Look at them.
I am here. I'm on the move. I'm about to meet with the client to discuss free agency. So you got a guest in the field. Call me a field correspondent for you, for the Herd, Drew Rosenhaus, correspondent extraordinaire.
So you represent Aaron Jones. This is rare. So everybody, for years and years, people thought, Drew, his clients want the money. Well, no, Aaron Jones actually could have gotten more money. He's never been paid big. He decided it's more valuable to be in Green Bay. And that's a risk to me as a running back. Did Aaron Jones come to you and just say, it's not about the money because I can make more money elsewhere? How did that deal come about?
Well, we had 3 major clients, Colin, that ultimately decided that they were going to take less money in free agency to stay with their respective teams. One of them you mentioned was Aaron Jones. The other one was Shaq Barrett, and another one is Rob Gronkowski. Aaron has had 4 great years in Green Bay. his skill set is just phenomenal in that Green Bay offense. Playing with Aaron Rodgers is just superb. They were in the NFC Championship game. There's such a premium. He's been one of the most electrifying offensive players in the NFL. Why would we change that? You know, it's not just about getting the most money. It's actually seeing that contract and playing that deal out and earning that money. And that doesn't happen. There were a lot of free agents this year that got cut after 1 year. Kyle Van Noy, Emmanuel Sanders, and others signed free agent deals last year and then wound up being released after 1 year. They changed teams. I like to say that when our clients stay with the same coaching staff, the same system, with a winning organization like Aaron Jones did with Green Bay, like Gronk did in Tampa, Shaq Barrett in Tampa, how do you leave a Super Bowl champ? How do you leave an NFC champion? How do you leave teams that are the best in the league and you fit their system and you've been successful? Shaq led the league in sacks a year ago, took over in the playoffs this year. Gronk had another Super Bowl. He's playing with this guy, Brady. These guys could have gotten more money elsewhere, but you want to stay where you're successful and earn the money and play out your contracts and win.
Yeah. You know, years ago, I was talking to, I forget who the GM was, and I said, what's Rosenhaus like to deal with it? He goes, it's funny. He goes, the perception with you media guys is he's tough. He said, Drew calls up. He goes, I'm in and out of the phone call in 90 seconds because he knows what he's doing, and he bottom lines you. He goes, Drew's actually pretty easy to deal with. And he said, it's not always about money. He takes care of his clients. So and I'm not just sucking up to you. I've said this before on the air. So it's interesting. You and Belichick, from the outside, you'd think, oh boy, this is going to just be boom, boom. It's not going to work. But Belichick's leaned on you a ton. And what is it like for you to deal with Bill? Take me behind the rope a little bit.
It's great dealing with Bill because he's the decision maker. It's great dealing with Coach Belichick because he calls the shots in the New England organization, and it's a lot better dealing with a decision maker who's the coach and the negotiator and the general manager, and as opposed to dealing with a guy who's just negotiating contracts and has to go back to 2 or 3 other people that he's trying to impress. So I really enjoy dealing with Coach Belichick because when you make a deal with him, you're making a deal with the decision maker, and that's super productive as far as negotiations go. And that really goes a long way towards getting deals done. And that's why this isn't anything new. I've negotiated many deals with Coach Belichick over a 30-year span. I can go all the way back to the late 80s when he drafted one of our clients when he was coaching the Cleveland Browns, and we negotiated that deal together. So it's not an exaggeration to say that I've been negotiating contracts with Coach Belichick for 3 decades. And because of that respect that I have for him, we're able to get things done. And I find that you cut through all the BS and you can get to the numbers and the bottom line, and that's very refreshing for both of us.
What happens, Drew, and I'm sure you've had this, where a player comes to you and wants to demand a trade? The Deshaun Watson situation jumps out obviously this year. Is sometimes it goes public, sometimes it doesn't. When a player comes to you and says, Drew, I want out, what is your first reaction?
Is it in your best interest? Is it in your best interest to be traded, or is it in your best interest to find a way to make it work? Sometimes situations can be resolved. I've had clients that were unhappy with the respective teams, and we sat down with the organization and we worked it out. If I agree with the client that the trade's in his best interest, then I absolutely will embrace that. We have a number of clients that get traded every year. We had Carlos Dunlap, who was traded at the trade deadline this year. It went from Cincinnati to Seattle, and that made a lot of sense because, Cincinnati wasn't using him much in their scheme, and Seattle was a great fit, and Carlos got to go play in a 4-3 as opposed to a 3-4, and that worked out really well for him. So, I mean, in hindsight, you've got to support your client, but not be a yes man. If it is in their best interest, you support them. If it's not in their best interest, then you tell them why they should try and make it work, and maybe a trade's not best. I have clients all the time who say to me, I want to be traded. and it can be frustration. It can be out of a variety of reasons, and you got to calm down and make sure it's for the best.
Hey, tell me what veteran Drew Rosenhaus would tell 22-year-old Drew Rosenhaus today. If you could sit him down and say, hey, partner, slow down on this, lean into that. Where have you grown as you look back at you?
I think there's a lot of things that come to mind that come with experience. I believe, for one, having poise. I think poise is really important when you're dealing with your clients and you're dealing with teams. Staying calm, losing your temper never really helps. In a negotiation, being belligerent or yelling or being overly aggressive or using the media to negotiate contracts, those are things that I've really kind of weeded out of my career over the last 30 years. Haven't had many holdouts. Don't really use the media to pressure teams in negotiations anymore. And I think the other one is just being brutally honest with your clients. Having the guts to tell them what they don't want to hear. Letting them know what is in their best interest and not what will be popular with them. Not being afraid of getting fired. I think there are too many agents that are scared of getting fired by their clients. And, we'll simply, tell them what they want to hear. And that is not in their best interest. So those are probably the main areas that I would say I've improved the most over the last 33 years that I've been in the business.
By the way, the Jonnu Smith to the Patriots jumped out to me as a really smart signing because I thought what was interesting, Belichick acknowledged, listen, I missed on my draft picks last year. I just didn't do well. And you know how it is, Drew, sometimes the greatest strength is admitting your weaknesses and not being rigid and just saying, hey, I whiffed on one. Do you find most NFL people, because Belichick has no problem admitting he makes mistakes, the Jonnu Smith one jumped out to me is just absolute perfect fit. Did Jonnu want to go to the Patriots, or did you push that one?
Oh, he was definitely excited about the Patriots. He knows, listen, Gronk, I've mentioned, Gronkowski's one of our clients. And I saw firsthand what Rob Gronkowski, he built a Hall of Fame career. I think he's been the best tight end in the history of the NFL during his time with the Patriots. So why wouldn't you want to go play for Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick when you're an agent? And I've been very fortunate to represent so many great tight ends in my career that have had long careers, like Greg Olsen and Benjamin Watson and Jeremy Shockey. And we represent a lot of great tight ends in the NFL, including a young star in David Njoku.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of experience in that position, and I was able to guide Jonnu, and he absolutely embraced playing for New England. That was something that he thought was a real positive, and he was very pleased to join a great organization and a team that's very tight end friendly over the years.
Good. Well, you got the Shaq Barrett deal done, and I didn't know if they could fit that one under. So good for you. And you're right now having, let's see, it's 11:20. So you're just having lunch and a cocktail. And who's the client you're meeting with, Drew?
Well, that is confidential. I wouldn't want to tip a team off. He's supposed to be meeting with another club, and I'm playing some negotiating games right now. So you caught me in an awkward position. This player is supposed to be in an NFL city, and I told another club he was on a flight, and he's actually meeting with me. I use every trick in the trade to try and get our guys signed and create leverage. So I wasn't here today, right?
That's right. Drew was not in Miami today. It's great seeing you, Drew. Thanks again.
Thanks, Colin. Good luck.
All right.
Bye-bye.